An Inner View with Ryan Gallagher.
Beautiful.
Oh, praise the Lord.
We're here to talk about the wild life. With your man. Pink. Is it not Pink? What's it called? Prince.
Yeah.
Thug. Is it Thug Life? No. Pop Life. But I thought I'd pop in the wildlife.
No, I liked it. Yeah, it was good.
Thank you. You can use that in whatever you want, really. It's yours.
I think I might be I want to start recording on my blog post and just make like a 5-minute digestible, some of them maybe 10 minutes, digestible like audio clip.
Mm.
And then I need a little intro. So maybe.
So yours, baby.
Either that or Wild Thing.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Make me love it.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if you could take the content seriously after that.
Think I love you. And then could have a picture to you hanging upside down.
Yeah.
Could go for humour. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, if you got to make fun of your flaws. Like if you're trying to, lose weight anyway. Is that a cat? Yeah.
There was a cat somewhere.
Is she out? Do you want to just open the door?
She locked in a box or?
Because she'll scratch the carpet up otherwise, and yeah, it's quite. There you
All right, love.
go. Go on, Dusky. I'm sorry, I've been neglecting you all day.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm taking your daddy now. You're gonna be back soon.
Go on.
Beautiful.
Oh wow, feeling very soft today. She must have groomed herself because I didn't groom her.
I hope you look after your clients better than do your cats, Sav.
I hope so. Look, I've got a groomer with this weird little. Is it there?
What are we looking for?
A strange comb. Ah, here we go.
Oh.
Dusky, come here.
You're needed, young cat. You're needed.
When she comes back, we'll sort her.
Yeah, we'll do that. Do that grooming thing.
Yeah.
Good catch. So reactions are good. Okay, good. Life is going good. This wildlife stuff really is working.
What's the best catch you've ever done?
Recently, there was I was in a shop somewhere, and it was a bit of glass, and it was like going down, and I just like.
Oh really?
Yeah, I was in a health food shop, and it was, and everyone was like, "Ooh," you get that like, "Ooh." I was like, "Yeah." I did used to be a goalkeeper, and you just don't lose it. Oh, yeah.
That's quite good. Yeah. It's amazing though when your body just takes over, and then suddenly you've caught this thing that you just
the reaction.
Yeah, you had no right in catching.
You feel like you're like Matrix style, isn't it?
Yeah,
like Keanu Reeves doing the.
You could do 1,000 takes and you never do that again. you know in the first Spider-Man, like the newer, not the older,
The Peter Parker Puppet. No.
Yeah, you know the one that came out like I don't know, like
Toby Maguire. Yes.
So they did 3.
Yeah, and then a new dude came in.
And then they did another 3, and it was exactly the same, but it was different.
Same.
So the first 3,
the
first one, you know, when he's like when he's discovering he's Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And then there's a bit where he like drops all his food. And he's in the lunch. He's in the line.
Yes.
Having I don't know what they call it in America. Recess, yeah. And then he drops all the stuff and there's got a tray and he catches. Apparently they had to do like 100 takes and they did that in.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Apparently did it in like real life. Yeah.
Oh right.
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
Yeah.
That must have been a long day at the.
Apparently, yeah.
Long day on the set.
I heard that was. Yeah.
It's a bit like when Beckham tried to do that advert, but his like thing was he had to hit the golf thing, the golf
The flag.
flag. That's the devil. And apparently took him just yonks to do, like days upon days, and but eventually got it. And it was just like this big like,
Oh wow,
he's done it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Long live Bex.
Were you a big Bex fan?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Why? What do you find so appealing about Bex?
What do I or did I?
What do or did or do?
What did I? I just
Like
that
playing as a player.
that right foot.
Yeah.
The right foot was just beautiful. It was just a thing of beauty, wasn't it? Really, just could ping a ball in from anywhere, and it generally hit someone's head. And didn't have any pace. I like that as well. Just didn't have any pace.
Yeah, that's the
start
thing
off with. Had no pace.
Could you reckon you could get away with it now?
Oh, there's a question. I don't know. Yeah, back a minute.
Do you think it's that good? I mean,
Yeah.
could he play? So, did Bex just only play on the wing? Like, what was he ever playing? Like,
He towards the end of his career played
Yeah.
centre mid, didn't he?
so maybe he could. Yeah, maybe it's a Rooney type situation, right?
But he did that too soon though.
Rooney.
He was doing that when he was fucking like 19. He was like coming back searching for the ball at
Right, yeah.
19. But like he just did it too soon.
But do you think he did it too soon when he was at United?
Yeah, definitely. There were times where they needed a number 9. They needed someone up front to score goals, and he was back here trying to play ball. I just didn't really.
But do you think that was just a symptom of the team just being shite?
Possibly.
Because that was.
But then was Scholes there? Was Scholes still there? He was doing that, wasn't he? Was he?
Didn't Scholes retire when Fergie retired? Because wasn't Rooney just started dicking about basically once Fergie left? He just started.
Maybe.
Because I don't remember him playing that much of a central midfield role when Fergie was there.
Maybe you're right.
That was a weird sound.
Oh yeah, sorry, that was the microphone. That wasn't the old yogurt straining. Whoop.
Yeah, no, I feel like the thing with Bex is I just remember just forgetting that he was a footballer basically.
No.
Because he was just so mega famous, and like my I'm just gonna blame it on my mum. She just used to just talk about him all the time because it was in the chat shows. He wouldn't be this without Bex, like all this kind of stuff. Yeah, and then it was just Bex was famous for Posh was famous first, like
Bex.
Posh was famous first. He made him who he was, who he is. He made him who he is, and I was just like, well. And I forgot they even used to kick a ball like for a while.
Yeah. Well, Ferguson said that he was the only player that chose fame over football, and
didn't he say literally that he was the only player who wanted to be famous? Like he was just different from the others.
Yeah.
He's to be fair, he's flipping cool though.
Yeah, he's great, man. He looks great. He's just got. He even talks like an arsehole, but he's just like a dopey bastard. But he's still great.
Everyone used to make fun of his voice, but I don't think it's that. He's got a bit of a, like.
Well, it's just a bit slow, wasn't it? And he used to a lot.
Kick the ball really.
Yeah, Well, I just looked up and crossed it in, and
you know that age-old adage of footballers being footballers just being not the brightest.
tick.
What do you make of that?
I mean, after hearing what your brother said about Peter Crouch, and he was listening to the Peter Crouch that Peter Crouch podcast, and saying that he doesn't even have to pack their underpants when they go somewhere. It's all just literally they just turn up and it's all just done for them.
Yeah,
you don't from the sound of that, you don't really have to think. You don't have to think outside the box. Because it literally it's just
pun intended.
No pun intended, man. It's just there on a plate for you. So it's no surprise that yeah, and then when that's kind of fed in with this whole idea that if you become a footballer you'll get famous, loads of money. Why people need to be smart? Why would you need to become smart?
I've started to think the flip side though. I think that like the pressure's so big now that if you're not switched on, it's just going to either consume you or the bar is being pushed so high that you're just not going to be able to keep up. Like, take a player like Ndombele for Tottenham, right? Like if he was smart, he'd be performing by now, and then people would be saying that he's worth 100 million. You know, and then you know, if he wanted to move on, he could get a bigger paycheck somewhere else. But if he just can't run, you know, a smart footballer figure out how to run. Like it's not intelligence is not necessarily like, you know, are you an academic? It's more about
football. Okay, all right.
I remember hearing somewhere there's like, you know, more than 10 different types of intelligence, something, right?
Okay.
And clearly footballers have certain types that, like, you know, you and me will never have, right? Like spatial intelligence,
Vision.
you know, visual intelligence, yeah, like stuff like that, right? So, you know, proprioception, which is, you know, something that just comes naturally to people, right? So, and others just don't have it. So is that, you know, I'd argue that's a type of intelligence, right? It's a type of having good proprioception is good. It's, you know, it's
What is proprioception?
so it's knowledge of your body in space, like awareness in space.
Right.
So, for example, so I have particularly poor proprioception, right? It's terrible, right? And like I've tried to improve it, but I can see, you know, I've worked with people like my coach, for example, who's got amazing proprioception, and for some people it's so good that they find it difficult to explain. Right. But I'd argue that's a type of intelligence that it could be learned, but also is, you know, you could be a genius in proprioception, for example.
Would you look at someone's proprioception when they come to you for coaching or for wildlife? Does that come into your I don't know, sphere of what you're analysing when you're looking for when someone comes to you to say, hey, I need this or need that or whatever it is, I need to lose weight, I need to.
It's not that important. So I'd say good proprioception comes as an awareness to your whole body and physiology, right? Like body and mind together. Like that will create good proprioception.
So do you kind of try and, I don't know, would you try and enhance someone's proprioception if that is possible?
Only if I'm like training someone to get fitter, for example. Like,
Okay.
so to understand the basic foundations of movement, it requires you to. Most people have like zero proprioception, or very extremely poor proprioception. Should I put it that way? Zero means you're just drunk, right? But basically, essentially, you know, from a very low level of proprioception. And I actually think it's actually very good to learn from someone like me who just has none naturally.
I can
It's literally zero.
definitely adhere to that. Yes, it's true.
I'm pretty clumsy. And so, so I've actually had to learn like such basic parts of movement that, you know, you kind of have to move through the kind of 4 stages of like, you know, unconscious incompetence all the way to, what's it?
Consciously competent.
Conscious competence.
Oh no, unconscious competence.
Unconscious competence.
Yeah.
No, unconscious incompetence to
Yes.
conscious incompetence.
Yeah.
To conscious competence to unconscious competence.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So most people don't know essentially, like in layman's terms, most people don't know they're doing it wrong. Then you say, no, for example, you're doing a press up, right? If I say you're doing it all with your shoulders like that, most people just, even if they watch the video of someone doing a press up properly, explaining it, when they went to do it, they'd still be doing that, right? So the first thing is like, you need to kind of understand why it's bad. Like, why don't you want to do a press up with your traps, right? The second one is, okay, now you understand it's bad. You've now got motivation to do it properly, and you kind of need to know why if you do 100 press ups with your traps like this, is that going to be, you know, detrimental to many, like, to your progress, basically. Then, so once you understand that, then you can move forward and say, okay, well, right, now I need to actually do a press up with like my back engaged, and actually, you know, creating tension in my lats and keeping my shoulders down, and then pressing into the proper position with my forearms at right angles, right? Only, you know, once you actually understand that movement, it can take months before someone can get to a even conscious competent level. That like it starts transferring over to other types of movement, right? But and still, even after, you know, 2 years of me trying to do it properly, still when I first like try and do a different type of pull up, I'm there all still with my traps like this, right?
Yeah.
And pulling and pushing are one and the same. It's exactly the same shape you're performing at different angle, but you want to make sure the same things are correct, right? So for example, if I do a push up or a row, right? I'm in exactly the same body shape, and I want to be maintaining exactly the same type of structure, and the exact same principles apply. Just doing the opposite motion, right? But still, it sounds so simple, and yet it's still so difficult to get right because you need to be conscious of how you're doing it wrong. And now slowly over time, I've been more and more movements I try and do, I can get it right, kind of first time or quickly.
Because you spent the time, you spent the effort learning how to do the moves properly, how to properly engage the right muscles in your
Exactly
in your torso.
Exactly. And it kind of, I mean, the beautiful thing about training is, and the strange thing about it is, like, you can say, it's like if you say I'm exercising, right? Well, what are you doing? Well, I thought there's two ways of looking at it. If you say I'm training, it means you're training to improve. Okay, yeah, good. Yeah. If you say I'm training, I mean you're training to improve, and it's kind of what does that look like? Well, often it's kind of you doing the movement wrong like 1,000 times. Like we're trying to consciously do it right until you can kind of unconsciously do it right. So the first time you try and do, say for example, you do a squat. You've seen someone do a squat on like a YouTube video, right? You try and do it, and it just feels awkward, and you're just like, what the hell is this? You often, like, I think I'd say like a large percent of people actually just give up at that point because it feels so awkward. And a squat is like one of the most basic moves you can do. It turns out to be one of the most complicated. But there are many more movements. So the first time you do it, you feel like, oh my god, this is like impossible. Like the first time I did a false grip pull up on the rings, which is basically a pull up where your arms are like that.
Huh.
So the first time I false grip pull up, like the pain and how awkward it was on my wrists and everything, and like you just have to keep doing it and just finding ways around, kind of consciously find ways around it. Until now, I can go on, almost most of the time, set my arms there and then just do a pull, and it feels kind of even almost comfortable, right? Like I found that comfortable position, but it's because I've done a lot. Like I've had to train my mind, I've had to train my body neurologically, not just me thinking about it, but me actually understanding it by doing it.
Oh wow!
Right, so yeah, there are kind of a lot of levels to physical performance that are beyond like you just thinking about it and doing it. Like you have to actually embed it into part of your.
And is that would you attempt to do that with people if for example you were coaching someone or you were taking them to the gym or is I don't know how would you is that something you would do? Is it look at their movements and how they're doing things and
absolutely break. So the first thing I was trying to do is just break down the movements into like just stick with the most basic ones. So the most basic things literally the most basic ones you can be doing are just like, can you hold yourself into a plank? Right? What does that look like? Okay, are you doing it all with your traps, or are you able to clamp down your shoulders and maintain your back, tension in your back? Do you keep your glutes tight? Are you like clamping your adductors together? Are you pointing your toes or flex? Like how are you doing it? Or what patterns have you built up over time? And unfortunately, because most people aren't training or haven't trained from a young age, they're kind of just probably doing it wrong, right? They're probably using the easiest path to achieve something small. Like, if I pick something up, I want to pick up something heavy naturally over time. I've not trained myself to do it correctly by picking up lots of heavy things from a young age. I'm going to just start pulling everything on my traps, right?
Okay, here we go. Test.
Right.
Okay, I'm planking, yeah? I'm planking. Is this plank? Is that plank?
Either way. Do arm straight.
Arm straight?
Yeah, arm straight.
Okay.
Okay.
Do it into the microphone. That's it,
Yeah. So Ryan, so first thing is to create, so yeah, you're kind of coming into your traps a bit. So what you want to do is make sure your elbows are shining towards that door, right? There you go. But you want your fingers, your index finger to also be towards the door.
My index finger.
Yeah. So there you go. Right. Okay. So now, can you feel your lats activating? You basically want to activate your lats in that position.
What are lats? Where are they?
These.
Oh, I can feel them. Yeah.
Those, yeah. So you can feel, but so I think you can actually clamp those more down. So you basically want to screw your shoulders into your back.
Screw my shoulders into my back.
Yeah. Okay. But also, you don't want to come up into your traps, right? Okay. So you need to push up in the ground more. Yeah, there you go, and screw your shoulders back. Now it's looking good. There you go. Can you feel the strength there?
Yeah.
Right. Now you want to squeeze so you want to keep your feet together. Right, and basically clamp so squeeze your bum. There you go. Okay, and then you want to be clamping your adductors, like the inside of your thigh, together, and your calves also together, and your toes together. So if you can do all of those things at once while keeping your belly tight and keep all the things tight, right? That is a maximal strength position to be in a plank. Right. So there's quite a lot of factors into it, and you could be weak in either of those points. You're looking like you're kind of in a good position now, except your back has gone a bit. So you want to be clamping more. You want to be pushing back a bit with your. I think you could be screwing your shoulders further into your back. Yeah, that looks good. But now you're coming into your traps a bit more. So you want to push up through your arms into your back. Yeah. A bit more. There you go. You're shaking a bit now, which means that you're gaining new strength.
All right.
Yeah. But your back's gone a bit again now. So you want to push up through. So you want to push up right into the top of your back.
Like that.
It's hard to do it without. Hold on. You want to push up from here.
Okay.
Into there. So this. So yeah.
You know what, I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna plank it here.
That look good, but can you see how many points there are to queue?
Yeah, literally.
Right. So there's that, and plank is pretty much. I mean, that's one position. Right. That's the basic bit. So for example, to go into a press up, right, you need to have a good plank.
Right.
To go into a, even I'd argue like so to have a good pull up, you need a good plank, because what is a pull up? It's that position. But it's that position, standing up with your arms initially there and coming to there, right?
Yeah.
So again, it's the same shape, right? So
it's just really quite good though how you are so analytical and just knowledgeable about, okay, so if you do and you can actually feel that it is working. The fact that when my elbows turned, it was like, oh, okay, that's a strong lock there.
Right,
it's an actual lock.
But I find it amazing how those things. It's like we don't have those naturally anymore. Like, because we've essentially evolved in positions where. So, for example, if you were to do like a press up in the more traps position, you were actually pretty good, right? But if you do a press up in the traps position, it will give you maybe two press ups, but you'll never actually be able to build the strength to do like, one arm press up or more stronger movements,
right?
Just because you're only using tiny movers. And you're not using your main movers. So your main movers would be your chest, your lats, your serratus, your core, right? You're just using traps which allow you to do small movements that we're accustomed to doing in this position, right? Rather than being, upright Homo sapiens in that position, right? So that's kind of why, and basically the curve is, you're a child, you're kind of running around, and then now you got to go to school. So if you ever see a baby do a squat, it's like the perfect squat you've ever seen. Right.
All right.
But then kind of now they're stuck at school, so they're just sitting down all the time. Now they're stuck on computers, now they're stuck in this position all the time. So now everyone's doing stuff with their traps, right? And they're not engaging their glutes anymore because they're sat down all day. And so that just causes weaknesses in your chain everywhere. You want to make sure that whole chain you had there is, there's no weak points in it, because the second you try to do a move, like an actual movement, so that's not even a movement, right? That's just an isometric hold, right? That's just you just be able to stay there tight as possible. But now you need to be able to transfer that to a movement, because if you have any weak points, like for example your glutes aren't tight, now the power is not being generated across your whole body, right? So the power in your hips, for example, will be lost because your glutes aren't tight. So you actually need everything to be able to do a good press up, for example.
Wow.
So yeah, the trajectory is that, like, once you now go to school, you pretty much, start declining in those major areas. And then once you come out of school, you realize, oh, I'm fucked. right? So now you got to relearn it all.
Need to relearn the fucking thing.
Literally, you have to relearn it all, and that's why there's so much information out there now about how to move properly, which should be something that's biomechanically, like a caveman, for example, a hunter-gatherer did not have to teach another one how to squat, right? Like it didn't.
But we are now in a state where we need someone to do that,
right?
like you.
So yeah, I mean that's pretty much. I mean that's pretty much the ethos is like. I mean, let's try to live more that way where you didn't have to learn how to do that, right? Like what's the trajectory that can get you there where you don't have to, except the issue is that the audience primarily have to pick that up. So how do you A, learn that yourself, and then B, translate to other people? Namely, I think children. How can you live a lifestyle where they don't need to, learn how to squat, right? Because it's quite ridiculous.
So not only are you would you be like helping someone personal in their own endeavors to lose weight, to work out how to do moves, but also if they learn that, then they can then pass that on to their kids, and they can and then they can learn up knowing how to do the right things. So it's not just affecting the person who's going to be coming to see you, it's also going to be a kind of follow on to other members of the family potentially.
That's the way I hopefully see it. Like I think my big goal is to like be able to affect children in some way, because I feel like the damage has already been done. Like if a child, say for example, overweight until adulthood, has been sitting down the whole time and isn't able to move anymore. Like you're already going to have to spend a lot of time and energy in getting that person back to where they need to be, and where it's just too late, right? It's a ridiculous scenario, right? Why wait until something's totally broken and then so that it has enough income to fix itself, right? Before you actually intervene. So ideally, you should be intervening at the earliest possible stage. You could argue, okay, that's just teach kids in school, but then you could also argue in earlier stages before the child's even born. Make sure that the parents have enough, knowledge to make the right decisions for the kid, so that it doesn't grow up into a society sick and ill, more and more people doing every year. That's kind of the way I see it.
Okay. Do you think one day you will work with I don't know, somehow educating kids via in the school system, or is it just is that or maybe not in the school system, but in some kind of way? Do you see that maybe in the future? Or I don't know.
I'd love to, but I see it working more via the parents,
right?
Because I think good parenting. I mean, I'm pretty sure I think good parenting can overcome 99% of kind of issues that kids end up with. I think maybe not. Maybe that's overreaching a bit, but I think a large percentage.
Okay,
like a more than. For example, how much time could you ever get with a child, right? Like if you were able to get like 1 hour a week with a child, right? And then that'd probably be in a group, to affect, some change. Like you're not going to be able to exact much change on that kid itself. But if you were able to educate the parents well enough, now they can go home and they spend, hopefully a lot more than 1 hour a week with the child, right? And they're making all the decisions, and, they're feeding the child. They're educating the child, they're, saying what they can, setting the boundaries, etc. Then you can kind of, help people more, I think, in that scenario. Like make people a, kind of vehicle for change, rather than just like directly, saying to the kids, do this. And also if you, say for example, you educate a child in a certain way, but the parents are totally misaligned, then that just creates division. So that's not really that. I don't think that's really that useful. Yeah, at least you're in a dynamic with adults to kids, where it's kind of one-way traffic.
Yeah, right.
Right.
And it should be good traffic, not just the sweary, get out of my way.
Yeah.
I'm after you.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So,
where did this idea come from? Where did WildLife come from?
Great question. Do you know what? I remember distinctly. I can't remember exactly when I started, like, the kind of seed was planted or started, germinating, whatever, right? I remember at some point I can't even remember where I was. I think I was in, I'm going to say Argentina. And I was with my brother, who was walking
post-nose ring, or?
It would have been post-nose ring. But I think the first time I came up with a caveman kind of thing, was then. And I remember we were just having a chat, and I was like, I really want to start like some kind of thing where I didn't know what it was supposed to be or whatever it was, like coaching or something. I didn't know if it was supposed to be coaching or like a nutrition thing or whatever. I think it might have been the idea for like the holistic kind of thing where you've got like your nutrition guy, it's like your physiotherapist, your personal trainer, your whatever, right? A group of people that can deal with all kinds of issues that you might have that affecting your longevity or health, right? But the idea was essentially do it a kind of caveman way, right? And I since gone with WildLife because it's infinitely more marketable, and people kept like the caves person thing kept coming up, and it's 2020 and this kind of thing, right?
Good idea.
And I'm kind of am aligned to the whole thing what people are saying, and it's a shame that caveman has the word man in it because Anyway, it was never going to be caves person though.
Caves person style.
Cave person style, yeah. But yeah, I mean, the idea was to do basically the way I kind of seen things is the more you're going against the grain of how the human body is supposed to operate, the more you're kind of screwing it up, right? So, and often I find we're intervening with things that are kind of trying to over optimize, like the way I kind of see it is I think my second blog post on it was about this, like literally, if you're going against what the body's trying to do naturally, like you're overthinking it because the body pretty much knows what's good for it. Right, you just need to provide it the right inputs, and the body will assimilate them and say, right, well, I need to do this now. Right, as long as you're expressing the right things you want to do, the body will adapt, and it's an amazing. It's like, you find me another machine that adapts as well as the human body. Like it just doesn't exist. Right, so so that is kind of that. That was the the very core ideology of the concept is right. So what does that relate to? What does that translate to? Well. The first thing is, so recently I went to this thing called the Digital Health World Conference. I think we spoke about this in the last podcast we did. And anytime you mention longevity to people, they would just say, that's really expensive, isn't it? And when you talk about other things like fucking sauna, cryotherapy, like all these weird things, supplements, all this mad shit starts coming up, right? And people... people seem to have this idea that like if you want to live long or be ultra healthy, you have to start vibrating your muscles with electrical stimuli and like doing blood flow restriction training or like training at altitude or getting in an oxygen chamber or buying all this mad kit that works out for you or something. I don't know, and it's just overthinking it, right? Like it's just
it's overthinking it, but also it's like placing the responsibility on external factors, on the machine that will, on the chamber that will,
right?
Whereas really,
it's I mean, there's enough things you can do that don't require you to buy something to make you healthier or make you lose weight or make you like get a six pack, right? There's just so many things that can be done, like when I discovered the wonders of bodyweight training, like I just cannot tell you how strong, from say a gymnast, right? Like they're literally training with nothing else but their own body weight, and just look at the bodies on these people. Like someone who does Olympic rings, like it's unbelievable. Like it's just and people are saying, oh, you need to go and learn how to squat 4 plates to be able to do this and that. It's just ridiculous. Like just go. Like I mean, the main issue is space, right? That's literally the issue. Like a lot, majority of people are going to live in a 1-bed studio, 2-bed flat, right? Or even like a 5-bed house where there's 5 other occupants, right? So things now become difficult. So now to do bodyweight training, like you have to go to the gym. Like, you have to go to a place where there's enough space in a city, in a city, to just train with your own body weight, and that is insanity. But that's kind of city life, right? There literally just isn't enough space. So okay, you can get inventive, right? But it's kind of where society starts working against you, right? That's where civilization starts working against you. Like how do you now, so the idea of wildlife is like, how do you now bring a wild lifestyle? And I don't mean like, going on the lash and getting absolutely fucked every weekend. No, that's not what I mean by wild, right?
Saturday's the new Tuesday.
Exactly, right. Going out on a Monday, that's heaven. What was that place? Heaven?
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so essentially being a wild human, right, which is exactly the opposite of fucking going out on a, getting the lash every night. How do you do that within the confines of, London, for example, right? So that's kind of what I'm trying to explore. It's just a journey for myself to say, okay, well, I don't want to go back to, it's impossible for everyone to just, go back into our, closest cave, right? It's just, there's,
Can't be
there's cubby hole, for instance, right? There's just not enough space. There's not, everything's, 99% of England's farmland or whatever, right? I don't know what percentage it is, but it's pretty, it's pretty hard to go find a kind of wild place in the UK, right?
So how does someone do that? How does someone bring the wild aspect into their life?
I mean, the answer to that question is, I don't know yet, right? This is pretty much, it's part of the exploration.
Okay.
But I'm trying to find out, right? So, I mean, it's kind of little things, and it's difficult to actually, it's difficult to get even close to the percentage I think people need. For example, I'm trying to run an online business that requires a laptop, right? Laptops don't function well outside in the cold when it's raining, right? So I need to do my work inside, and it's dark, right? I'm lucky to have a conservatory, right? But I don't have a conservatory. Like 99.99% of people pretty much don't have a conservatory. How are you getting natural sunlight throughout the day? Like, it's imperative. I cannot explain how imperative it is to have natural sunlight. Like, I when I was in university, I used to function. Like, I used to wake up at 4 p.m. and do my and go to the library, right? Because I'd been up all night working. I was that crazy, and the effects that on my mental health that I can see now, and on my physical health, I can't even explain. Like, now I'm so in tune with the fact that, like, even if I have, recently I stayed up to watch the boxing, the Tyson Fury fight, right? That started at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m., right? I was screwed after that, right? And I can feel like the decrease of my performance, like everything, just because I'd stayed up for one whole night. And there's even a stat like for daylight savings time, right? Have you heard these numbers before? Mm-hmm. Like for example, like the so in when the clocks spring forward, so we lose an hour of sleep. Well, most people would anyway. Literally the whole country, for example, has lost an hour of sleep. So the effects that have on, for example, like harsher sentencing. Have you heard this stuff before? Like I think driving incidents, like it's literally like most dangerous place to be on the road.
All because of that 1 hour of sleep that was lost.
Right. Well, I mean, like everyone lost an hour. You know. So I mean, okay,
it's a collective. Okay.
Right. Mm-hmm. I mean, even if you lose 1 hour, like if I had 6 hours opposed to 7, I feel it. Right. Mm-hmm. So imagine everyone getting 6 hours opposed to 7. Maybe you just answer slightly less consciously. Like someone's asked you something, you just answer slightly less consciously, or you just your reactions are slightly slower, like just slightly, but everyone's are slightly slower, right? Think of the effect that has on the whole society. Wait, do you want to let a cat out? She's literally been trying to get out for about 5 minutes. So. There she goes. Yeah, so these, I mean, someone once called daylight savings time. I think it was Matthew Walker. He literally the
sleep dude.
The sleep dude. What's the name of it? Why We Sleep. I think I probably stole the stats from him. I can't remember exactly what it is. There's a great podcast of him and Peter Attia. I think you listened to all of them, didn't you? Mm-hmm. Like on one of those, one of those, 6 or 7 hours, how many it was, they talk about that.
It's a Lord of the Rings episode.
Yeah. Literally, yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's how important sleep is anyway. And sunlight has a huge effect on your sleep, right? So if you're not, for example, like literally first thing I do when I wake up is I have a freezing cold shower because I like really grown to love it in the morning, really gets me out of bed. I do a tiny bit of stretching on this here carpet right here with the little balls and stuff, you see. And I literally just go straight outside, like just straight outside for a bit, walk around, bask in the sunlight. Like I'm pretty sure I maintain a suntan, slightly like throughout the whole of winter. People kept saying
so vital, isn't it? The sunlight and
I mean, to be honest, like I didn't feel the seasonal depression at all this year, and this is the first year I've really.
Oh, really?
No, zero, like literally zero. And because I had pure sunlight on my body, probably more than, the amount of sunlight I was getting on my body in the winter was probably more than I bet you 99% of people in the summer.
All right.
I'd place a lot of money on that, and that was just an hour a day in the morning, right? Huh. So, and I mean, I'm getting direct sunlight on my skin, right? So, and it's because I've conditioned myself to have to train outside in February, 1st of February with no shirt on, for example, like just shorts. So I've conditioned my body to survive in the cold, right? So when I come inside, I'm not complaining it's cold all the time, right? I've kept my metabolic rate up, so I'm staying leaner, and then I'm able to receive much more sunlight and generate vitamin D, keep my circadian rhythm as rhythmic as possible. And it's just simple things that cost me zero money, right? And just trying to stay a bit more, wild, like trying to not be essentially mollycoddled by modern society, not just, giving in to every single pain point I've got, right? If every single pain point you've got, you just buy something to paper over it, then that's something you're now outsourcing to essentially corporations and just not yourself, right? So now your body doesn't need to adapt to it. So, now, for example, it's February, there's no heating on in the house, for example, I'm working from home, I'm in shorts and a t-shirt. There's people walking around with scarf, hat, gloves, like inside. Every time someone walks past me, they say, I can't believe why you're not freezing. And the answer is simple, right? The answer is, it's so simple, but I can generate my own central heating, right? Yeah. If I was at a restaurant yesterday and someone said to me, someone goes, you don't have a coat? Like, I'm outside for like 10 minutes. Like I'm literally walking. I've walked from the tube to the restaurant, and then I've walked from the restaurant to the theater. It was like 25 minutes. Like, why bring a coat? Like, I don't know. Like the wind, okay, it's a bit cutting, but after once the wind blows once, like you just adjust to it. But most people aren't even willing.
Well, that then goes back to your thing you said about the human body being the most adaptable thing. Yeah, the adaptable machine that is known. The fact that you've proved just then that if you get a bit of wind, yes, it is quite at the but then you get used to it. You just get used to the cold of it.
It's cool. Like I was doing I love doing the Sam Harris like meditations on his Waking Up app. So I started doing this with my t-shirt off, right? So I'd sit down, like there's a lovely bit of sunlight that comes off in the morning, like where I sit like on some logs, and like the wind's blowing, and you can feel it. Like I'm now in tune to, like I can hear when the wind's blowing around the wall, like in the garden, and I know as soon as it's gonna freeze up, and at that point I can now think to myself, okay, the wind's gonna blow, don't flinch. And I can sit there and I can feel the wind blowing, and I can just go, and it feels nice for my body because I can actually feel all parts of my body being, excited in different ways by this fucking freezing cold wind. But it's that kind of exciting, and you kind of feel even more in tune with it. It's actually like you just get used to it, and now suddenly it's another experience in the world that you can kind of attest to. It's kind of.
So you're also bringing kind of mindfulness into your practice too. Is that right, or do you not like the word mindfulness?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like absolutely. Like the number one best way to deal with pain is just be mindful of it. Like if you focus on it and don't flinch and be open to and receptive of it, you'll learn to just accept the pain for what it is and not just say, oh, I'm in pain, I can't deal with it. Right? It's the same with exercise, right? If you accept what the pain is, like your muscles crunching, or you accept that you're in an uncomfortable position, only once you observe that the position's uncomfortable or that it's freezing cold or whatever, can you actually learn to adapt and take it for what it is, right? And actually deal with the problem rather than just run away from it, right?
Mm-hmm. I used to think that the best thing to do when going to the dentist was just not think about it and just avoid it, and it was the complete wrong thing to do. Right. I went recently, and it was a hygienist. It was a hygienist, yeah. But I was like, no, I'm going to actually like just face it and just be like, right, no, there may be some pain in here, but it's fine. And lo and behold, it actually was fine.
Right. Well, I mean, unless something goes horribly wrong, you're going to come out the other side, right?
Exactly, yeah. Just
And at the dentist, like, I mean, what's the rate of that, right? Just like 0, right? So, yeah.
So it's not. Well, I don't know. It's not a one size fits all, but the wildlife is just basically trying to get these simple bits that we've like lost over, civilization and generation. It's just trying to basically be more in tune with them. Is that kind of the?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I wish we could all just walk around naked, like without any reliance on technology and just talking to each other. Like that's kind of it. And okay, technology is now part of everyday life. That's kind of best way to get messages across to people, etc. So it's kind of, and that's that's part of our culture now. So it's kind of, how do you marry the two together? That's kind of what wildlife is, because as I said, there's no, literally every corner of the globe is now, got some touch of civilization in it, some touch of the internet. You go anywhere in the world, there's, people with smartphones, doing all kinds of things. So, it's kind of, is it just the philosophy is just how do you bring that back into what the modern, into our modern culture?
I like it. That's great.
Good.
Where do people find you?
So you can find them wildlife.coach.
Mm-hmm.
That's .coach is it's like .com but .coach. Yeah, that's a new one.
There's a new one.
They released like 1,000 or more new ones like a few years ago,
right? And
they're dirt cheap. And also just better. I think some of them are more specific.
So wildlife.coach, and then you've got a blog as well, haven't you? You've got a blog.
So there's a /blog as the blog, and then if you want, so currently I'm specializing in weight loss coaching. So if you go to just wildlife.coach, you'll find the kind of weight loss coaching page on there, and then the blog is more. The blog is slightly geared to weight loss, but just kind of general as well. The philosophy. I'm gonna do one on coronavirus. I think.
Okay.
Fairly soon. What's the wild way to deal with coronavirus? So that's in the pipeline. Just that's where to find me anyway. For the moment, anyway. So mostly on the website.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And I can definitely attest to just how good. I mean that little thing we just then. I mean that just a picture of 1,000 words and all that sort of thing. But the way that you've assisted my life and the way that you've helped me work things out and just like tweak things here and try this and try that and just give it a go, just try and I've done these things, and I'm at the best way I've ever been in my life ever, like
good
including like teenage years, like seriously,
okay,
absolutely. And again, that is purely down to your philosophy and your help and your guidance. So I'm a literally standing test of proof that you're fucking good and you work.
Thank you.
And also it's not what I think also is quite important is that it's not it doesn't just go into the weight loss or the or the sleep, whatever. It's wrapped up in this whole thing that also increases like self-confidence and self-worth, and that's also something that I found through like just giving you a text or giving you a call is that through these things of weight loss it's actually increased my confidence in myself, my confidence to actually go out and actually talk to people and do this podcast and all those kind of things, and that is 100% down to your aid. So
good.
Yeah,
that's good.
it's
that's
true,
really
and it works.
Cool. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Right. I mean, you've done extremely well considered, like from a self-experimentation point of view. Like, talk to me about your experience in that. Like, what? Say over the last month, like trying keto, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So you had your motivation for doing it, whatever. I don't know if you want to go into that, but then also just the process. Like, what does it feel like to actually like say I've read about something. Don't just take it for what someone else said. Like, how did you feel actually going through the process yourself?
Well, I think it was definitely a sensual experience, because it's not just you've got to be very analytical, you've got to be very aware, you've got to be pretty in tune with your body, and pretty in tune with, okay, does this work? Okay, so I've just had a big lump of cheese there, and my heart's having a little bit of pain. All right, I'm not going to have so much cheese next time. Do you know what I mean? It is this kind of like relationship that it was, and it's like, okay, I'm going to have fish covered in oil. It feels good. I feel really energized, and yeah, it definitely has made me become more in tune with my body, and I know that if I now eat, I've not actually touched sugar. I mean, I've had like a little bit of like cakey things, but only like homemade stuff. But I'm definitely now more in tune with my body, and be like, okay, I definitely feel more like, and right, okay, so I'm definitely not gonna do that again, or so it definitely enhances that aspect to it, that you just become more in tune with yourself and what works for you and what doesn't. But actually trying it and doing it is all part of the kind of visceral process of it, really.
Yeah, right. I mean, I love what you said, that it was a sensory experience. Like that is, yeah. I mean, that always makes me excited just thinking about that. Like just when you try something new on yourself and you're like, okay, let's just see how this feels.
Yeah.
Like this, and it takes like, it could take days for something to happen, and then you think, ooh.
So, oh right, okay. So I've got all this fat in my body, and I can't sit down. I actually need to go out for a walk. I'm going to go for a walk, and then I fucking did. I went out for a long stroll, and didn't get fatigued or tired or shaky because my body was waiting for the sugar. It's like no. It's I'm energized. I'm using the fat that's in my body. And again, all down to you and your help and guidance, letting me know that I needed 75% fat, or just to not even look at it like calculus, but just look at your plate and go, what's happening here? What percentage right now is fat, carb, or whatever? And most of the time I was looking at it and being like, do you know what? I'm not going to get the protractor out, but I'm pretty sure that's about, a good like 70-75% fat in that. And if you're in doubt, fucking chuck olive oil over it, innit?
Yeah, I mean that's a good way to do keto for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean here's the thing, right? So keto is it's an extreme diet, right? So you kind of do need to be wary about your macronutrient ratios, right? Because you need 75% fat, 20% protein, 5% carbohydrates, or 0% carbohydrates, and those things can be manipulated slightly depending on who you are and what you do. But there's kind of the numbers you need to be in. So you kind of do need to be quite aware of your food. But you still didn't have to weigh, or actually count the calories themselves, right? No. You did it by eye, and you did it by intuition. And that's totally possible. So, one of the things, one of the kind of WildLife methodologies is like just never count a single calorie. Never, just do it all by feel, all by touch, all by taste, all by smell. Like, even cooking,
senses, no?
Right? Use your senses. Like even in cooking, like, never give you give indications as to like, what kind of quantity you want, but never give a measurement as to like how much salt you should put in, how many, tablespoons of this or that, right? Only if you're doing something like, which requires genuine alchemy, like baking, for example, would those things be considered, but not.
I'm not going to lie, it did start quite anal. It started very anal. I was like, looking at the back of the, but over time, I was like, well, that's not natural. Do you know what I mean? It's like let's do the natural thing. Let's engage the senses, and that is literally what happened.
But I mean, you do need to go through that stage to some extent. Like, I've gone through the packet looking stage because I just didn't know what was in what, right? And when people say, oh, you need to eat this percentage of this and this percentage of that, right? Make sure you've had, so at one point I tried to make a diet, like, I tried to eat 30% fat, 30% carbs, 30%, 33% protein, right? And so, I didn't actually know what was in stuff, right? So I was looking at the back of packets, whatever. And eventually I figured it out, right? But now I could just say, look, Ryan, just do it by eye, right? Is it, what do you want to eat for dinner? Right? What do you like eating? Okay. I like eating steak. Okay. Well, all right. So just get a fair size steak. How much do you think you can eat? How much do you want to eat? Right? Get a fair size. You decide. You're going to learn. You're going to learn how big it is, right? You're going to learn next time you go to the butcher's. Last time you got 300 gram steak. That was, you were still a bit hungry. Let's go with the 350 this time, right? Let's go with 400 this time. It's up to you, right? You're deciding your diet. I don't need to tell you that. Then you say, okay, well, right. is the plate mostly steak, right? And is there like a good amount of veggies on there, and whatever carb or whatever you want to eat with it, right? It doesn't really matter as long as the thing isn't processed, as long as it actually looks like food. That's a good plate of food, right? And that's it. It's that simple. Like there's no need to overthink it. And even that works for keto diet, paleo diet, whatever flipping diet you want. As long as you kind of, that is your your main plate, and that's the food you're eating, and you're not kidding yourself by, say, for example, snacking loads and then skewing the numbers, right, hugely without being aware, then that's how you consume a healthy diet, and you don't even need to think about it, right? That's kind of the wildlife, that's the kind of wild human way of doing it, right? You would never weigh your portion. Like it's insanity. Like if you ask me, it's literally the most unnatural, uncultured way of looking at food. Like if you have to weigh your food like it's some kind of, like it's I don't know, some kind of like chemical or something. Like it's not. Yeah, right. It's just I couldn't think of a bigger disconnection you could get from food culturally, in a human natural sense than weighing it.
It's just that oh, I'm full, I'm not going to have as much next time, or I'll have that for lunch tomorrow, but right now my body's saying full, can't fit any more in.
Right.
Why weigh?
Right. And your body should be creating those signals for you, right? You shouldn't have to think how taxing it is, like every time you're going around and there's literally an opportunity to consume shit like at any moment in your life, right? Pretty much any moment. Like even in this room, I'm sure I could find something, right? But it's kind of my body's giving me the urge like, okay, I'm in my bedroom, don't need to eat, right? I'm in bed, don't need to eat right now, right? But some people have those urges, right? They're in they get in situations, they find, oh, I need to eat, or I'm not full yet, or this and that, right? But you can actually create. Once you're getting those urges, you've already kind of lost the battle, right? Once you already want to eat, if you're constantly having to stave off hunger or stave off the urge to eat, it's fucking taxing. Mm-hmm. So the idea is to just kind of get it so those things don't arise in the first place, right? So coming up with methods that keep you totally, at ease, level-headed, don't have sudden urges of requirements with dopamine or serotonin, for example, and just make yourself just be a just be able to exist by yourself, right? You don't need to look at a schedule to know when to eat. You don't need to weigh anything to know how much of it. You don't need to consult a recipe to decide what you're going to put on your plate and exactly what quantities, right? That's kind of the wild way.
I think the sun's on my side today. I got a lease of life, I feel okay. Need to call around, get them all out, jump in the car and get on our way. Cause there's love and the strength in numbers. They can try, but they're never gonna run us down. Speakers loud, it's like we're on a come up. Fifth gear, but they're never gonna race us down. I'm alive on a high, blue skies, there's nothing better. Hands up, we're on a ride, hold tight, we're laughing together. Ooh, we'll light it up and ooh, we can't be stopped and oh, can't hear us coming. Oh, we take off and keep it running. Take a stop at the riverside, crack 'em open, pass around the light. Breathe it in and out, bring our guards down. Yeah, this is ours for the day and the night. Cause there's love and the strength in numbers. They can try, but they're never gonna run us down. Speakers loud, it's like we're on a come up. Fifth gear, but they're never gonna race us down. I'm alive on a high, blue skies, there's nothing better. Hands up, we're on a ride, hold tight, we're laughing together. Ooh, can't hear us coming. Oh,